Hey, I'm really glad you decided to watch this video. I made it first of all to stop, slow myself down, and savor the beauty of spring coming to Juneau. A lot of years I let the blueberry blossoms pass by without giving them the attention they deserve. It's really a beautiful moment in the forest, and taking the new Samyang AF-135 lens out with me gave me an opportunity, an afternoon this past week, to just enjoy the light coming into the forest, to see some of the plants starting to grow, to focus in on those blueberry blossoms and just take advantage of this moment in the spring. I also noticed some things while I was going back over the footage and putting it together. Learned some things about working with the lens and also working in Premiere Pro that I thought I'd share at the end of the video. So stick around if you're interested in hearing about that. All of the clips in that video were filmed with the A7S III. Most of them were in 4K at 24 frames per second with the in-body image stabilization turned on in the camera. But the Samyang 135mm lens doesn't have any stabilization in the lens, and that proved to be a problem in a lot of the clips that I filmed. When I got back and reviewed things on the computer, I noticed that there were a lot of micro jitters and some pretty big movements with the lens. When I was able to hold the lens kind of up here, the whole camera up close to my body with my elbows tucked in, all of the things that they tell you that you should do when you're filming to keep things stable and to get good footage. I did have a lot of success in those situations, but there were a lot of times where what I wanted was to hold the camera low down, away from my body, to be able to have it get a little bit of movement. And when I was trying that out, it was not successful. And I came pretty close to just scrapping things at that point. So it was kind of a game changer that I decided to go ahead and give the warp stabilizer effect a try in Premiere Pro. Not really sure if I'm in focus here, but I thought I'd give this composition a try. Well, I filmed a whole clip of this talking to the camera where my head was a little bit cut off at the top of the screen already. Do I dare do it again without checking? That's the problem with being a lazy videographer. Anyway, oh man, I just don't want to do that whole thing again. What I realized when I started trying the warp stabilizer on some of the clips is that it's really pretty incredible what kind of results you can get as far as not a huge crop in to the edges of the frame and still being able to hold things relatively still to get rid of a lot of the shake. Really, I don't know, I might have had it turned up too high. I found that I was able to get rid of almost all of the camera shake. All of the clips ended up looking really smooth. The subject tracked well, even with some panning or moving the camera in closer to the subject or further away. Of course, the warp stabilizing effect isn't gonna really help if your focus is jumping around. That was another thing you probably noticed while you were watching the footage. And sometimes I like the way that looks, and other times maybe isn't really an effect that lends to the idea of just like simplicity and beauty in the footage and in the nature. So that was a tough one. I think probably some different settings on the camera that slow the focus tracking down and help it to lock on to subjects and not jump to other subjects quite as easily would have been nice. But one thing that for sure warp stabilizer is not able to do is get rid of motion blur that's introduced into the video when you have kind of rapid movement of the camera and the lens. And if you were watching closely, I'm sure you noticed that there was some glitchiness in the footage, and that's kind of what happens when the software is working to hold all of the key elements in the frame really still and keep their movement smooth, but at the same time, those bumps to the lens or like that really jitteriness, the movement in my hands and in the camera causes some motion blur in all of the objects in the screen, especially noticeable in the ones that are in focus at the time. So I think I definitely learned some lessons through the whole process. I'm pretty happy with the result in some ways, and know I have a lot of work to do in other ways. I love the look that came out of the Samyang 135mm, that shallow depth of field, and the ability to focus fairly close to the lens was pretty fantastic for really highlighting all of the beautiful details in the forest on a spring day. And so I'm definitely looking forward to making good use of that lens on some future projects. And I hope overall you enjoyed the attempt at showing some of the beauty of spring and giving us all a chance to see it for what it is, not let it pass us by, and love the world that we're blessed to live in. That's it for me. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.